What if you could stop thinking about food all day? What if guilt, the spirals, the stress just quieted down? In today's episode, I'm talking with Jamie, a founding member in my signature One Body to Love program, who used to feel totally consumed by food and body stress, and now she's living with freedom, confidence, and ease. We talk about what finally helped her to break the cycle, what surprised her most about the journey, and what life feels like on the other side. If you've ever wondered if real food freedom is actually possible for you, this conversation is a must listen. Welcome to One Body to Love, where we're rewriting the rules around food, body image, and self-acceptance. I'm Dr. Meredith McKenzie, therapist, coach, and your guide to a life free from diet culture and food guilt. If you ever felt stuck in the cycle of binging, restricting, or struggling to feel at home in your body, you're in the right place. Each week, we'll explore emotional eating, body image, and joyful movement through solo episodes, expert interviews, and real-life coaching sessions. Because your body is not the problem. This is your space to learn, heal, and finally break free, and to discover what it means to love the body you're in. Okay, so welcome, Jamie. Thank you so much for agreeing to be on the One Body to Love podcast. You and I have had, I would say, plenty of conversations behind closed doors over Zoom in our coaching calls and through the time that you were in One Body to Love. But now we're going to have a bit of a different conversation, and I'm just so excited to talk to you about like the entire journey that you've been through, because I know that it started long before you and I even knew each other. Can you take us back to what life felt like before you joined One Body to Love? Like, what was your story leading up to that point?
Sure. Well, thank you so much for asking me to be on this. I was really excited, for the opportunity to share my story and to, support the work that you're doing. It has changed my life, and I'm just really, happy to share any insights I can to help other people.
Oh, thanks, Jamie. I'm also so glad to have an opportunity to just talk to you.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, this is really neat. I'm glad that you're doing this.
Yeah. So what was it like for you in the beginning?
Yeah, in the beginning, my journey, I think, like a lot of people, is sort of a lifelong not realizing that certain behaviors really were indicating a problem. For me, overeating was kind of an occasional thing that happened for me. Binging was an occasional thing, nothing that I really realized was a problem. But in retrospect, it was indicative of, a coping method that wasn't really even working then, but definitely came to not work in my adult life. But in 2016, I had a massive asthma flare that really changed my life, and in the use of steroids to help me breathe, ended up putting my adrenal glands to sleep, and that put me on steroids now permanently for at least the foreseeable future. So it's been almost 10 years.
Oh, wow.
And it turned my life upside down.
Mm-hmm.
And in the process of that happening and just wondering where my life has gone, who am I now? Why, I can't do the things that I used to be able to do. My ability to cope just bottomed out.
Mm-hmm.
And I immediately went to food. And you can gain a lot of weight on steroids anyway. That's a really common thing. But I really was just eating and eating and eating, because I just had really never learned any other coping strategies. And when you have a chronic illness, and I know a lot of people can relate to this, the world doesn't understand. People don't grasp what you're going through. So it's not like you have a big support system around you who gets it.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody understood.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody could relate. And so I felt really alone.
Mm-hmm.
And that brought me to the place in 2020, where I started to think, I really have a problem. This is more than just eating, comfort eating. A lot of in our society, a lot of people do that, and I get that. But this is more than just that. This is a problem. This is impacting my life. My body's in a really unhealthy place, and my soul is in a really unhealthy place. And so that's what brought me to the point of going to YouTube and typing in binge eating disorder, and then Meredith Mackenzie's videos pop up. And that was the beginning of me getting to know you.
I remember that first conversation that we had and that you had found me on YouTube and being very
Yeah.
excited that, like, at least putting the message out there, people were finding it. A few things that stood out from what you just said, and maybe we'll get into this a little bit further in our discussion, but I think there's a lot of misconceptions when people think of someone who struggles with binge eating. And you were a very active person before this asthma flare up. And,
Yeah.
like, I think one part we've talked about is like there was a bit of a grieving process for you, is that your body was not working the way you were accustomed to it working. But
Yeah.
you weren't somebody, and by no means to say anything negative about anybody who lives in a larger body at any point in their life, but you were very, very fit. And maybe part of that was diet culture. But you wouldn't have
A
been
lot,
the
yeah.
poster child for someone who is struggling with binge eating occasionally.
Yeah, I mean, throughout my life, my weight had always gone up and down, and I was, as so many people, or so many women certainly, are just constantly on the diet, off the diet, on a new diet, off the fad diet. I mean, back and forth. And so, because of my buying into the thin ideal, it was kind of always something that I was striving for and then failing and
Mm-hmm.
striving and failing. So in that cycle, definitely. But certainly that period of time in my life before the asthma flare, I was really active, and I had, I had been fit, and I was chasing a 6-year-old around, and yeah, I was in a really good place in my life. And so I think that was part of the grieving process, was like I had achieved all the things you're supposed to achieve physically and, in the world. And it all just kind of poof, went away.
Mm-hmm. What were your thoughts like by the time it got to the point of 2020, 2021? I think we met in 2022.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts around food and your body by that point?
I knew I was harming myself. It just really came to this realization, and it became this really dark place for me. When I
Mm-hmm.
thought about food, I felt like I couldn't stop myself, even though in the back of my mind I knew I could. Then
Mm-hmm.
I realized I didn't want to stop myself. And then what's that about? And then why am I harming myself? I don't want to harm myself. I'm already chronically ill. I don't want to make myself sick eating, a lot of things that were not helping my health.
Mm-hmm.
And so it really just, I really ended up down in a hole. And in 2020, and maybe thereafter, I looked for treatment.
Mm-hmm.
And I live in the United States, and uh, the treatment that was around me, in terms of inpatient, was really more about anorexia or bulimia. It felt like binge eating disorder was sort of an add-on. Like, in addition to these other things, we have a little bit about this. And I thought, I don't want to go inpatient. It's 2020. There's COVID, but I also need something that is laser focused on what I have going on. Like, I was aware enough to know this is what's going on for me,
Mm-hmm.
but I couldn't find anywhere locally where I am, or really anywhere I could even really travel to, that really spoke to, specifically what I'm going through. And that made it harder. That made
Mm-hmm.
me feel kind of hopeless. I
Mm-hmm.
remember, being on a camping trip with my husband in like late 2021, and just sobbing, and just kind of, there's this moment sometimes in your life where you're uh, and I think that this happens for a lot. I think a lot of people who are in recovery from addiction can kind of relate to this moment where you finally reveal to someone who is close, or the closest person to you, I have a problem. And it was such a crushing moment,
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't know how to solve it. I
Mm-hmm.
just knew I needed help.
Mm-hmm.
And, he was very compassionate and very loving, but I could see in his eyes he didn't know how to solve this problem.
Yeah.
And so that was really it. By the time I had gotten to that place, that, late in that summer, I just thought, I don't know what I'm going to do. I just know I don't know how much longer I can go on like this.
Hmm. And I could see the emotion come up as you were thinking about that conversation with your husband.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
you've talked already about so many of the multiple feelings and thoughts you're having at the same time. It's like the
yeah,
relief of being able to finally tell somebody and to
definitely.
hopefully not feel so alone.
Yeah,
And yet at the
yeah,
same time, the devastation of, okay, this is how hard this is. And I feel like I can't do this alone anymore.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Hmm. Um, were there any specific moments or patterns that made you realize that something needed to change? Like when I talk to people, I find that even the word binge eating is such a stigmatized word that it's hard for them to identify with that. Like it's almost like, ew, no, I just eat some cookies. Like I'm not that bad. Or sure, I
Yeah,
have this every night after the kids go to bed, but I'm not that bad. Like there's this like
yeah,
repulsion almost from admitting to yourself what it is. What do you think it was that
yeah.
helped you realize?
Um, I it wasn't necessarily one single moment that happened. It really was a process of, I kind of call it getting sick of myself. This idea that I've been engaging in this behavior so long. And for me, binging was almost always an after everybody went to bed, it's quiet. I have some time for myself to relax and unwind, and relaxing and unwinding from the intense anxiety and stress of being chronically ill and then having to still live life.
Hmm.
This was, to me, like, it starts out as this rationalization of, I'm just going to eat every sugary thing in this house and more, and that I bought today, and all of that. And it slowly just became this point where I would look at this and just think, I'm sick of this. I'm sick of me doing this. I'm sick of me.
Hmm.
Right? It goes into this whole narrative.
Hmm.
Um, so it gradually came to that place. And I think also for me, it was, I don't know how many sizes of clothes I replaced. But at a certain point, I just got to a place where I just thought, I have literally so many sizes of clothes in this house.
Hmm.
And I just keep going through these larger and larger sizes. And I have to not be in denial about what's happening with that and what's causing that.
Yeah. And like you like anyone listening might not know this, but you know this because you and I have talked about this before, that
Yeah.
I very strongly encourage like that compassion around, whatever size you're in. I remember
Yeah.
when you said one time in one of our coaching calls that you went out and bought yourself some new clothes and that you were really excited about them and that they were
Yeah.
clothes that made you feel happy and more like yourself. And it is really expensive to buy new clothes and to feel as though I think a lot of people experience the like, well, I'm not going to invest in anything that's, maybe a little more money, or I don't want to go and spend that much time in the change room and going around the mall because I don't like what I see and I feel so defeated that I'm probably going to do this whole thing in a couple months again anyways.
Yeah, I mean that's certainly
Sorry.
part of it, and I think that there's uh, obviously, and we'll obviously get into this, but this, the when you were in recovery, buying that new set of clothes, regardless of what size you're buying it in, feels so much different than when I was binging and I was buying clothes. It's almost like being a whole
Hmm.
different person. The concept of being at peace with who I am and where I am really changed the game of how I thought about obviously everything, but certainly just looking in the closet, and it size just really started to not matter the cuteness of the clothes mattered a lot more.
Yeah.
But yeah, it really, that's one of the major paradigm shifts that has occurred for me, is just being cool with like actually buying clothes that I do love, and the size is really just not an issue.
Mm-hmm. I'm so happy for you with that. What was it that made you were watching these videos that I had put out? That was my COVID project as well. What made you decide to join One Body to Love?
Well, it was interesting because when I was watching the videos, you were at that point a therapist in Vancouver, and I was a person in Seattle, and I just kept thinking, I wonder if there's any way that I can just drive up there and get an appointment with her. Like, I don't, I mean, she's not going to take my insurance or anything, but I mean, like, surely there must be some way. So I put this in the back of my head, like, one of these days I'm going to contact her, and I'm just going to say, would you see me as someone from a foreign country? And as it happened, sometime after that, I mean, this is all kind of a process, but, a year and a half or something after that, you put out, the call about One Body to Love. And, it was definitely kismet of this being the perfect thing, the perfect person, the perfect time. Like, it all just came together. And I thought, this is amazing. This is like the universe telling me that the moment has arrived to change my life. And this is the person who has the program to do it.
Oh my God, Jamie, thank you so much. You just like, I feel so flattered. Yeah, I was so happy to have you in there too. I remember your name in my Zoom call when we were doing the master class. So yeah,
Nice.
yeah. Were you nervous or hesitant about anything? Like, this was like, you're saying you've waited, you've put it in the back of your mind. Now you're going to do the thing, and it's going to be a 10-week commitment plus.
No. I mean, I know it sounds funny, but I know that not everyone who steps into a recovery space is ready. A lot of times there's some pressure to do that, or there's some sense of obligation to do that. For me, it was really just the stars aligning. And I really just knew, heart and soul, that I was ready, and that I had been wishing for this to happen. And so when I went to that, my only issue was, staying committed, coming to the group every week, doing homework, like really committing to this. I did wonder, like, can I really change? I know I want to. Can this really work for me? Will I be able to make the shift necessary? Because where I started and where I ended up obviously are really two different places. It was hard for me to imagine that my life could be different. So that maybe was the only block for me, was I don't know how I'm going to do this. I do not know, but I knew that I needed to trust the process.
What do you think it was about that particular like opportunity, or that I had put out this call for One Body to Love, that could possibly be different than what you'd already tried in the past?
Well, again, having watched your videos, you seemed extremely knowledgeable, and it helped, at least for me, to know that this was something that you personally had struggled with. Like, that the level of empathy that you could bring to it was really different than some, things that I was seeing researching programs here in the States, which, I'm sure are run by competent practitioners, but it is just that extra layer of someone who gets it is huge. And so it really was a lot, a lot of it was your qualifications, obviously, in terms of education and training and practice. that was something that I would obviously have, well, at least obvious to me, would have been looking for. You seemed legit.
Yeah, I wasn't some
But
funny lady on the internet.
exactly. And they're out there, right? So, and your message was about things like intuitive eating, which I'd heard about, and you didn't know a lot about, and you were really, in terms of your videos, had really been very enlightening about that. And I knew, again, just had the sense that this was the way to go. Didn't know how to implement it, but knew it was the way to go. And you were somebody who knew a lot about that. And so that, and also you took a very gentle approach. Unlike diet culture, or unlike how I kind of perceived some recovery programs, especially maybe an inpatient, you didn't seem to take an approach of, now we'll be extremely regimented and there are a lot of rules and you will follow them, and if you don't, you will fail. And none of that was part of what you were offering. You were offering a kind of clemency, I guess, from the behavior that I was exhibiting. You said it was okay, and it was okay to be where I was at. And I just knew that if I came to this program, there would be acceptance, and that was everything.
Thank you. Yeah. I think too, something that can be a bit confusing from the perspective of like the commitment that it takes is like, yes, the educational point of it is 10 weeks. The intention of the 1 year access to the weekly coaching and everything is that this is not a process that is going to change quickly. If you were rigid with yourself, absolutely, you could see changes in 10 weeks. And, I could probably put something out there of like, oh, Jamie didn't binge in 10 weeks. Look at that. Isn't that fantastic? And that's vanity metrics, really. It's makes the program look really great, but that's not reality, because you know what you're doing the very first night you finish that program, you are like getting yourself a Dairy Queen cake and taking it home.
Yep.
And so the reality is you are going to continue to binge here and there. Like, even, I don't know, I can't pick a day, but there was probably a day in the last month that I was like, you know what, I want the ice cream and the chips. And I had a little emotional eating evening. Was it a binge? It was not. And did I let it stay with me? Absolutely not. But this is a process, and it takes time.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I agree, just from a perspective of having been in the program, that having that year to come back and touch base, to talk with other people in the group, to get your input, to even just talk about, hey, I binged twice this week. Like, just to be able to say it in a space where people get it and they don't go, you went for 10 weeks, you did a program, why aren't you cured, right? Why aren't you cured? And the reality is that you don't get cured. The reality also is it's a process that ebbs and flows. And so, yeah, I think it's invaluable to have that support, because you get out of the program and it's like, okay, I can do this. And then you are in reality of like, oh my God, I'm really still with the training wheels, and I'm really not totally ready to ride this bike on my own. And so, yeah, I think it's really important to be able to come back throughout that year and check in, and even sometimes just to hear other people talk about what they're going through is also, it is centering. It really kind of puts you back in the space of, okay, this is the commitment I still want to make to myself, and I'm going to be okay.
Can you speak more about that? Because I think that might be something, or what I suspect might be a hesitancy for other people, that you are doing group coaching and you are in a group space. What was that like for you?
I think it's extremely important. I mean, obviously the 10 weeks, the educational piece of it, really you are developing the tools there, and you are practicing the skills. But a lot of that is very cerebral. And even though obviously, through certain exercises, feelings are going to come up, and certainly that happened for me. But I think it's really in that weekly coaching where you can relax into a sort of a more casual environment of just talking like real people about what's really going on. And I really like I really liked being with the group in terms of hearing people's stories. Like I said, being able to feel like, oh yeah, it's not just me, but also in having a chance to know other folks who are going through this. You need a community. Like I say, back in 2016 when I got sick, there wasn't anybody who understood what I was going through.
Mm-hmm.
When I have come to coaching, everybody gets it. There's no judgment. There's no, oh my God, you fell off the wagon. No, it's all just, we're here for you. And we're here to support you, and it's okay to be where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
And the gentleness of that, the kindness of that, you can't replicate that anywhere else. You can't find it on the internet. You can't, it's probably almost impossible to find even in your personal life. Like, this is the space where it's okay to be who you are and where you're at.
I'm so glad you had that experience. I think we had a really special group during your educational period as well. Like, it was, yeah, those women, like, I think of you all, like, it was an amazing experience even for me, right? It was obviously something I wanted to do and a service I wanted to provide, but really enjoyed getting to know all of you. And I think that part of the group supporting one another, like, can I have lived experience? Absolutely. And can I bring expertise? Of course. But you guys bring something special to each other as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. That little community that we built is invaluable. That the support that provides keeps you going through the hard moments of, can I really do this?
Mm-hmm.
That group is there to tell you, yes, you can.
I'm curious, was there a specific moment that you can remember, or one of our modules or lessons that shifted things for you or created a kind of like an aha moment for you?
Well, and I know that we discussed this quite a lot when I was going through the program, because we started to notice that a lot of people were like me in terms of neurodiversity. So I have ADHD. And as such, certain practices and certain skills that we were trying to develop seemed difficult. I kept kind of not understanding why everyone else seemed to be able to just like tune into their body, and for me it was like, where is my body?
Mm-hmm.
And this is a really common thing with ADHD, but I didn't understand that at the time. I just thought, everyone else can do this and I can't do this. And it really, it put me on a journey to look at binge eating through the lens of ADHD, and to really learn how to tune in and listen to my body and understand that, although, especially for someone like me with chronic illness and with trauma in my background, it served me on some level to not be tuned into my body.
Mm-hmm.
But my brain is also wired in a bit of a different way. And so it naturally tunes out the body because my brain is busy doing, I don't know, ADHD superpower things, right? And so this program, that module, was really this major light bulb moment for me to realize that I have to work a little harder. I have to pay more attention to my body because it is totally being ignored. Mm-hmm. My brain is really running the show and doing its thing, and my emotions are just like jet fueling that, and my body's going, hey, I'm here. I'm not just a vessel. I need to be taken care of. And so it was really that, looking at my ADHD brain and looking at my body and saying, these two need to connect. And this was the moment that finally started to happen.
Mm-hmm. Again, this might be something you want edited out, but I have a curiosity about it. If you are you're on an oral steroid?
Yes, yes.
Do you find that that affects the way you think at all?
Um, Not necessarily, not that I've noticed.
Okay. Or maybe
Yeah,
there's a tolerance to it now if it's been 10 years, but
yeah. I mean, yeah, the steroid in and of itself is really just, I mean, there's a lot of problems with oral
yeah.
steroids. I'm not going to go into
No,
details,
it's
but
okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
Google can tell you all about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of, not necessarily making a mind-body connection, for me, it's really, I think, more about ADHD and neurotransmitters and not having enough of those in my brain, as most ADHD people
Hmm.
don't. I am unmedicated for ADHD, to clarify, because there might be some folks who are listening who are on a stimulant medication, and that's awesome. My body just won't tolerate it.
Hmm.
Otherwise, I'd be there with you guys. Yeah, for me, it really is just about my brain, needing some dopamine that it just is not entirely getting.
For anybody listening to, we have an episode on Vyvanse and binge eating or overeating. And so I'll link that in the show notes down below for you to see just how Vyvanse works and how that might interact with your emotional eating patterns. But as Jamie said, you're not currently on any medication for that. But yeah. So this, I think, is a major shift in how One Body to Love approaches emotional eating and binge eating compared to other programs. But what did it feel like to be supported in this particular kind of way and not just told what to do the way, say, and I probably legally can't name them, but other programs would. Um, but to be guided actually to trust yourself and to listen to your body and what you need in that moment.
Yeah. Uh, that was one of the things that I was worried about when I was researching, was this idea that this would be sort of a cold, regimented sort of thing. And I think, certainly for me, one of the reasons why I was binging in the first place was because of childhood trauma, because of not having nurturing parents during that really core part of my life. I was trying to nurture myself with something that cannot provide that nurturing in that way.
Yeah.
And so again, when I saw your videos and then really getting into the program, that nurturing piece is huge. That is what I needed. I needed that compassion, and it really has that sense of that unconditional love, in the sense that it's okay to be where I'm at, and I'm a valid human being, just no matter what stage of this I'm in. It really, it just was a very comforting environment, in a way that I needed, in a way that I think my inner child needed. It needed to feel safe,
Mm-hmm.
and you provided that, and that was just such a draw for me, is to know that I'm in this safe space
Mm-hmm.
with someone who is helping me nurture myself.
Mm-hmm. And I hope that it was, that the impression was given, but that is also, I think, something that's really what I experience as well, is that, yes, this is about food. And I recognize that I, like you say, nurture myself with foods that comfort me. But there are so many other ways that I need to be nurtured and without the food. And that is not just about my relationship with food and movement, but it's oh, I am so overstimulated throughout the day as a parent and I need 2 minutes of silence. Like, how can I nurture myself with silence? How can I nurture myself with connections with friends? Like, there's so many things that I actually need that are so easy in our world to say, my needs don't matter, and to just keep hustling and going through. And so I think that while I've healed my relationship with food and my body, there's also so many other things that have impacted my life because of that.
Yeah, I agree. I think one of the major realizations that I had in the program is that this isn't about food. Food is really, this is just, food is the stage that this plays out on. But unmet needs is really so much about, what it was about for me. And needing to have the self-compassion, because this is not something that I learned in childhood. This is not something that was modeled to me, to quiet the inner critic. All of that that's what it was about. That's what this behavior is about. Food is a neutral object. Me using it for something that it can't provide needed to be reframed. And so, yeah, I definitely get what you're saying. I think, and this is a whole other podcast episode, but about women and the demands that are on us, it trying to even have 5 minutes to yourself can sometimes just be incredibly challenging, and it can feel on a really deep level a sense of sadness and hurt. Why can't I have a moment, or maybe I don't deserve a moment, or stories that we tell ourselves. So in the program, it really offered that. I get to take this moment. I get to make this about me, and not just that that's okay, but that's necessary. I am worth this. Was, again, a big shift for me to say, yeah, I am worth doing this, and really committing to myself to take care of me.
Well, I would love to have you back on to have that conversation, because as we've discussed before, your son is older than my kids, but it's like multiple layers of that too, where I'm even like, well, am I a bad mom if I need these things for myself?
Right.
Where you start denying yourself.
Yep, exactly. Yeah.
Where would you say you are now? How does life look different?
I think one of the greatest gifts, tools, skills that I took away from this is self-awareness. As you said, we are not perfect when we leave this program. We are not magically cured. We will spend the rest of our lives with this disorder, whether it's active, whether it's sitting in the back of our head, but it's it's been woven into the fabric of how we behave. At least this is how it feels for me. So the thing that I have developed, maybe stronger than anything else, is the self-awareness to be in the moment and say, I'm binging. Okay, all right, I'm binging. Why am I doing this? Well, things are crazy in my country right now, and I feel really overwhelmed, and I don't know what to do, and I'm anxious, and I feel like I have no power. Okay, all right, okay, so I can stop binging right now. I can deal with those feelings, or I can keep binging, and I can deal with those feelings. And a lot of times that pulls me out of not just, okay, I'm setting aside the binge food, but it sometimes can really pull me into the really super uncomfortable and hard to resolve feelings of things like powerlessness or feeling powerless. So that self-awareness for me is everything. And it has helped me in multiple aspects of my life. It's not just about whether or not I might realize I am binging. It's also just, why am I feeling like I'm going to jump out of my skin a lot of the times? Like, because I'm feeling anxious. Okay, what's that about? Okay, where is this feeling coming from? Why am I feeling this? Is there something I can do about it? So it really, for me, has been a shift in consciousness.
I love too that I can hear the shift in your tone of voice that you use for yourself too. Like, a much more compassionate inner dialogue.
Yeah. I think my inner critic still wants to live here. But and so she comes up from time to time, but she's not the driving force that she used to be. And I really do have that quiet but strong, kind of, I don't know, reparented self who says, shh, 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 shh. I understand you want to complain here. I understand you want to criticize. I understand you want to say, that's not good enough. You should be doing that. But we're not going to do that right now. We're just going to be okay with where we're at. And that is directly because of this program.
I'm so glad. Well, how do you think your relationship or how you feel around food and your body has changed, or how does it feel compared to what it was like before?
Food is so, it's so interesting. And I still definitely sometimes, and it's like whatever the holiday is, Halloween, Christmas, that kind of thing, I still feel a little anxiety about all of the sweets and the treats that go along with those things. And maybe it's habit. Maybe it's the habit of, that for so long it was like Halloween, I'm going to eat all the candy, or, this sort of thing. I mean, we don't set out to do that, but it happens. But so that might still be a little bit of this trigger for me of like, okay, take a breath. It's okay that there's candy, right? Mm-hmm. So that's definitely a place where I become, a little more sort of hyper aware of like, I'm not, I get to make the choice of whether or not I do that. Whether or not I eat it or not, it's okay. It's okay to have it. It's okay to not have it, right? To take sort of this neutral look at it. But it also, has really, it's allowed me in terms of food to be able to, because a lot of times when I was binging, I wasn't really looking at sort of the other side of binging in terms of like how to really nourish my body. Mm-hmm. I always thought of salads and things that were green as diet food, right? Because this is what you eat when you're on a diet almost mm-hmm. exclusively, it's like have a salad. Now I have a salad because I feel the genuine craving for it. I've realized actually I do crave green things, like who knew, right? So it's been really fun to come up with ways to like have a green smoothie or, like just mm-hmm. to really try all of these different fruits and vegetables, or to make a whole, broiled tray of, vegetable delights. Like it's really fun. It isn't diet food. It's just things that can be delicious and that I crave and that I enjoy. And I have to tell you, I would have never, ever thought that would happen. So yeah, it's, again, some of it's self-awareness, but some of it is just really tuning in and asking myself, well, what do I like? What would I like? What seems interesting on the palate? And that's been a really fun exploration.
Mm-hmm. I agree. You just made me think the other night we went out to dinner and I ordered a salad. And the difference for me too was that was just a decision of, oh, this is what I feel like, rather than that very quiet internal dialogue, like fight almost with myself of, well, I want this, but I should get this, but I want this, but I should get this. Oh, I'm going to be disappointed. Yep. And to just be able to eat it and not have it be a thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, when it stops being about all the food rules and just starts being about the pleasure of eating something crisp and, fresh and colorful, that for me is where a huge shift came. Mm-hmm. And it just being a very enjoyable experience. Who knew?
This might be a bit of a tougher question, but if your past self could see you now, what would she say?
Oh, wow. That's something to think about, huh? My past self, well, maybe, the self of 10 years ago or whatever, she was not aware enough to even be in the same place as me. I think it would almost be something that she couldn't quite understand. Like, wow, what is this consciousness you're inhabiting? That's how different I have become. Um, I so I think that she would marvel at my ability to be at peace with so many things that for her were just not acceptable, not okay. How could you, be okay with, a certain clothing size, or how could you be okay with, like just not eating all the candy, or, I mean, just like
Mm-hmm.
things that, how could you be okay with the fact that your whole life flipped upside down? You don't even recognize it anymore. And you're just rebuilding your life, and you're out hiking, and you want to do that for fun, and like, who are you? And like, what do you mean you're not exercising to lose weight? You're just out to have fun. Like, what has happened, right? I think she would be kind of shocked. So yeah, I think it's really just it's an interesting question. I look back on her a lot and
Mm-hmm.
think, oh wow, she really had it all. And now I really think that maybe, even though I don't think she could look at me and see that I have it all, I know that I do.
Mm-hmm. I'm so happy for you. What would you say to someone who's listening and feels stuck where you were, like is in that place and feels like they're not able to get out of that cycle?
Um, I think for me, and this is kind of one of my philosophies on life, uh, for me, it binge eating and where I was at, I felt like I didn't have a choice. This was just happening, and I was in this compulsive behavior, and it was controlling me, and it was running my life, and I didn't have any power to stop it. And what I believe, and what I would tell anyone, is that it's very much a choice to be in binge behavior, and it's very much a choice to not be. And that choice is within our power. We're not powerless over food, and we're not powerless over binging. We can make a choice. I make a choice, and I make a choice every day
Mm-hmm.
to take care of me. And I feel that that has been extremely empowering for me, to choose me, to choose to nourish me, to take care of me. Um, I don't feel powerless anymore. I really feel like no matter how difficult things might feel, or how overwhelming something might happen, I've had grief and loss and all this during this time. Um, None of that has to take my power away.
Mm-hmm.
I can always choose to take care of me. And so I would say that to anybody who is just really in that dark place that I was in. You do have power, and you can make a different choice. And even if you're just going to take that on faith right now, like, okay, I'll believe you, I have a choice. Like, I would have said the same thing. Okay, I can make a choice. You can come to a place in this program where you realize, yeah, actually, I do have the power to make that choice, and you can choose to make it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it's so hard too because it's almost like there aren't words for it, but it's different than the shame-based, you should choose what you're eating, like of other programs, I think, of,
Yes,
why are you doing this to yourself, and the hurtful
exactly.
things that we might say to ourselves versus
Exactly.
self-empowering.
Absolutely. And I think that's really the key. I don't think we pull ourselves out of that dark place by being more shamed about it. Yeah,
Hmm.
I think that's really counterintuitive, although we seem to be in a society where that really is just such a theme.
Hmm.
But yeah, for me personally, coming out of that place was the positive reinforcement that by you, by the group, by the program, that I could do it. I could do it. I can make these choices. I can take my power back, and I can really change my life. And that only really came because of those positive messages. That, at least for me as a human, that's what motivates me. Somebody believing in me until I believe in myself. And now that I do, I believe in other people too. I'm here to spread that positive message as well.
So any advice for someone who is on the fence right now about joining One Body to Love?
I think that maybe not everybody needs to hit a rock bottom, as it were, like I did, but I think what would help anyone is to be willing to be honest with yourself about where you're really at, and to really evaluate if this behavior is helping or hurting. I think that level of honesty can be very painful. And I think that we, as a society, actively avoid that. But it is the one thing that, for me, changed the game, is being willing to say, I know I'm not okay. I don't know how to solve this. I don't know what to do about this. I just know that I can't keep doing this, and I need to change. So some of it's the realization, some of it's the being honest, and then some of it really is, and this is just, I think, part of humans, is that we have to be ready to change. And that's maybe the one piece that, people come to in their own time, or through enough pain. Sometimes it's just like it hurts. It finally hurts enough where you need to change. But being willing to be honest with yourself, I think, can sometimes bring that moment about. So, yeah, dig in the dirt.
Yeah.
Really take a look at what's happening for you, and ask yourself, is this okay? Can I keep going on like this? Because if you can't, maybe you are finally at the place where you're ready to change.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much, Jamee. Absolutely. I never had the opportunity to talk to you about it in such a meta way, and what was going on for you at the time and how things are for you now. So it's been so great reconnecting and being able to see how much your life has expanded and the wonderful things that you have going on. If you could sum up your transformation in one sentence, what would it be?
Let's see. I'm not known for my brevity.
No.
One sentence of this transformation to the word that comes to mind is that I have a greater sense of inner peace now. I really am at a place where I feel like a sense of being okay with myself, a sense of quietude, and a sense that there's a confidence that comes from that I'm okay, I'm safe with myself, and I can trust myself.
That's awesome. Well, thank you again for joining me today.
Thank you. It's been such a pleasure. I've been so excited to talk with you and to share my experience.
Yeah, it's been so great having you. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
That's it for today's episode of One Body to Love. I'm so grateful you chose to spend this time with me. These conversations around food and body image can be deeply personal, and the fact that you showed up today open and curious means more than I can say. If today's episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Come connect with me on Instagram at Dr. Meredith Mackenzie. Send me a message, share what stood out, or just say hi. If you're ready to take the next step toward food freedom and finally feel at home in your body, head to meredithmackenzie.ca/OBTL to learn more about the One Body to Love program. You'll find everything you need to begin healing your relationship with food with support every step of the way. If you're enjoying the show, one of the best ways to show support is by leaving a quick rating and review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening. Your words help more women find this space and feel less alone. Until next time, be gentle with yourself. You deserve a life of peace with food and your body.